perfected one. Badgering me about the non-Anglo features of my face was one of the games the kids around me liked to play. I, from this, hated my nose until I became comfortable about my identity as a Native American to know that I have a beautiful nose. This is a menial part of my existence in Illini country. My biggest embarrassment dealt with the fact that I had to sit in a classroom and be taught certain falsities of Native Americans. For instance, in 5th grade, my teacher created this lesson plan where we would all be pioneers for a 3-week period. We ate beef jerky, drew pictures of our covered wagon, sat by the fire and read our book reports aloud, and ran from the killer Indians. My teacher was very informative on many aspects of a pioneer's life. But when I asked her about the Ho-Chins, or any Indians for that matter, she had no clue. Oh, they're mostly all dead, she said. Most of the Indians that are alive live in Oklahoma. These particular kinds of remarks tell children that Indians are dead. They don't exist, and they don't matter. There are more instances of embarrassment to my self-identity, like the times I sat at high school, junior high, and college sports events and watched someone who knew nothing about Native American history, someone who had even heard of a powwow, jump around in an insane fashion to rile people's spirits, when all it did to me was get me angry and question their actions. Other times of unease include people who did know my ethnic origin. They would sing the Illini theme song or call me names like Durango or Sacagawea, thinking it was all fun and games. I just don't think that people realize that what they are doing could be put in a similar context that happened so blatantly in the past to African Americans. Racism comes in all shapes and forms, and the one that you have right here in Illinois is Durango. His false representation as a Native American is derogatory. It does not make me feel proud. It does not help this community know more about the fact that Native Americans are alive and trying to live under the oppressive blanket of a militant action that American government has tucked so tightly underneath its mattress of fluffy propaganda. It does not help the people in this community know that there are languages, spiritual beliefs, and knowledge that is entirely different from their own being passed from one generation to another. That these are all very sacred to the nations throughout this nation. That the patterns that you may wear that are Western have some sacred significance within a group of ancient beliefs by a great people. That dream catchers are not just adornments for your rearview mirror. They too have meaning in a culture that many people know nothing about. My point to this statement is not to attack anyone specifically. My reason is that a person cannot learn about a culture properly if they have a preconceived idea about the culture already. That the stereotype of a dancing warrior must be eradicated before the real identity of nature is learned. And I'm glad that you're here to do that. But the people that need to learn are not here. There exist many issues that are racist towards Native Americans, but none are bigger or worse than any others. They are all horrible. All these issues deal with racism against Native Americans, and it hurts me. To start somewhere, I chose to fight to abolish this mascot. This symbol, before Hitler and white supremacists got a hold of it, was a very sacred religious sign. This symbol is a university mascot. This picture describes, in my opinion, the first sacred sign from God, human life. The Creator gave us tradition with song, dance, and story. The mascot desecrates human life. It humiliates me and makes me recall the bad that has been done to Native Americans since the beginning of the new American history. The mascot does not honor me. Illini whip places me in the bowels of racism. This is not an honor. This issue has been consistently brought to the public attention since 1986. The silence from this community is an endorsement to commit a racial crime. This city houses a racist institution that humiliates a small community of Native Americans within this community. This institution has broken promises for many things that it has offered to Native Americans at the University of Illinois. I'm determined to make everyone in this state, in this country, rid all educational institutions and professional teams of racist mascots. Money should no longer be an issue. Tradition should no longer be an issue. The issue should be about justice and equal rights and common decency to realize that a line item is racist and should be abolished for that fact alone. I know the faculty, employees, alumni, representatives from Parliament and from Amnesty International all opposed the use of the chief. So why does he still remain? I heard that one of the reasons pro-chiefers want the chief to remain doesn't deal with money or tradition, but because of the First Amendment that the fathers of the Bill of Rights wrote. This country, I assume, did not have Native Americans in mind, nor did they have any other minority groups in mind when they made this amendment. But if pro-chiefers want to use this argument, fine. But with your freedom of expression invades my freedom to live freely, free of bias and stereotypes, this is when your freedom of expression is cut short. The chief must be banned. Native American stereotypes are prevalent throughout our mainstream society and are a key component of racism. Television and movies and schools tend to portray Native Americans only as historic figures, perpetuating false and romanticized images of non-natives. The chief trivializes Native American culture. The chief must be banned. The ethnocentric idea of majority rules can no longer fit the situation. The Faculty Senate passed a resolution 9729. This school is treading on people's feelings, my feelings. We no longer want to be thought of as what the chief portrays. There are many nations, many cultures and languages within the generalized group called Native Americans. There are so many things to learn about the many nations in America, South America, Canada, and Alaska. It would take more than a lifetime to learn. We do not need the chief to trivialize and degrade Native Americans any longer. The chief must be banned.
Woo-hoo!
Thank you very much, Melissa. Our second speaker is Cyd Crue.
Talk louder? Okay. My name is Cyd Crue, and this is my son Wayne, and my husband is sitting here in the second row. We moved here to Illinois 2 years ago for me to enter into the doctoral program in sociology. Previously, we lived in Salt Lake City, where I completed a bachelor's degree and a master's degree in sociology. But today, I'm not here as an academic. I'm here to speak as a mother. And some concerns and fears and hopes for change that I have as a mother. Wayne is Shoshone-Bannock. He was born in Westwood, Idaho, and my husband and I had the opportunity and great blessing to be able to adopt him. And if I get a little emotional, please excuse me. He is the single most important part of my life. And when we decided, when I was accepted here as a graduate student, I thought University of Illinois, what a fine, prestigious university, what a great opportunity for me and my family. I originally am from Chicago, and I thought a great opportunity to move back to the Midwest and show my son my roots and where I came from. And so it never occurred to me the impact that the mascot of this institution might have on my son, or what it might be like for him to go to school here. And so we happily moved here 2 years ago. And I want to relay some of our experiences to you. When Wayne entered school, rather than teachers and parents and friends seeing him as, well, maybe he's Native American, they looked at a young man with long hair, and the stereotype here for a young man with long hair is juvenile delinquent, druggie, troublemaker. These are the first impressions that teachers, parents, and friends, peers, neighbors have of my son. Now, I did not realize this until he started having fights every day after school. Wayne had never been in fights before. He had never had problems before. There was, in Salt Lake City, we lived in a very diverse section, although Salt Lake is not very diverse. We happened to live in a diverse section. There were several Native children in his classroom. There were Asian children, there were African American children. He went to a very diverse school. And so I said, Wayne, why are you fighting? This is not you. What is going on here? Well, Mom, they're calling me gay boy and Barbie. They're making fun of my hair. I must stick up for myself. And this went on and has abated somewhat, but it still happens. Teachers, when he comes into their room, they see a troublemaker. They don't see a young man who's trying to make a connection with his heritage. This has been very important to us, that we have taught Wayne to be proud of his Indian heritage, of his Shoshone-Bannock heritage. We taught him that this was something that he needed to share with people about his background and his history and his culture. But it was an awakening to him that people would treat him this way, and to myself and to my husband. Wayne has chosen to grow his hair long because it is his one link, his one connection to his past, to his heritage, to his people, to his identity, to his self. Yet this very decision, which is admirable, has also led to much trouble and problems within the school system here. I believe that the mascot of this great university perpetuates and permeates the atmosphere in this community. I believe that it creates a pseudo-Indian identity. When Wayne walks into the classroom, he does not look like Mr. Alignment. Therefore, he is seen as a demon. And in the community members, you are never going to meet a Native person that looks like Mr. Alignment. And I use Mr. Alignment. I like Bill Winneshiek's addressing him that way, and I have also chosen to dress the mascot that way. So consequently, because of the pseudo-Indian identity, it makes it very difficult for members of the community, for students, for school board members, for our neighbors to hear statements about and by real Native people. Because it conceals that we have real Native peoples among us. We have real people here today with us. Wayne knows who he is. He would like to share that with us, but they're not interested because he does not look like that. Now, I think that one of the most insidious aspects of our mascot is his warlike appearance, the fighting Illini. Now, what does that do to our children in school? Wayne is inextricably tied to this fighting Illini image by his ethnicity, which also perpetuates his interactions at school with his peers. Indian children are also often seen as they're supposed to be fierce fighters and are often physically challenged because of this image, because of this identity. I believe that our schools, that our communities, are places where all children, regardless of their religion, their culture, their abilities, their ethnicities, income levels, should feel welcome to join in our learning, in our experiences, on an equal basis. However, when Native children enter and live in an environment such as the Champaign-Urbana community, where there's a logo, where they go into school with children with this image on their shirts, their t-shirts, their footballs, their cars, their license plates, that they are denied inclusion. And that at the same time, their fellow students are being taught that it's acceptable and to discriminate against Indian people and their heritage and culture. It's acceptable to make light of things so important to them. I believe that Indian children living in this community become alienated and marginalized. Wayne is a deviant. The first thing his teacher sees when he walks in a room is a juvenile delinquent. He has this long hair, right? And the university symbol creates this barrier to learning and also imposes an atmosphere which is intimidating to my son and to other Native children in this area. I believe that it also interferes with learning by creating and supporting and maintaining oversimplified and inaccurate views of indigenous peoples and their cultures. And indeed, it makes these, as I said before, real Native peoples invisible. Making this area, Champaign-Urbana, Midwest, and indeed all of Illinois, because the University of Illinois is the flagship university for this state, an inhospitable place where Indian children feel unwelcome and always on the defensive about who they are. And I'd just like to say a couple things about whether this symbol honors Wayne as an Indian person. As I've already said, his teachers, friends, first images of parents who consider him as a playmate for their children, see him as deviant. But he has now become, because of these experiences, afraid to change schools, afraid to meet new kids, afraid to meet new parents because of their interactions. He was never afraid of these things before. He was very open and friendly. In fact, when we moved into the neighborhood, everyone I met said, well, we've already met your son. I didn't know this when we were unloading, going door to door saying, hi, I'm Wayne. I'm new. Do you have any kids? And so I enrolled him in a course at Sylvan Learning Center because he needed some additional help with his studies. What was his fear of going there? Those kids are going to make fun of me, Mom. I don't want to go there. I feel that it is unfortunate that this institution's mascot, and which has permeated our society, our neighborhoods, our community here, has instituted or has created a situation where Wayne's self-confidence, esteem, and pride in who he is has been compromised. So, from my experience, I'd just like to say that Indian logos and mascots are not a form of honoring Indian people. They do not honor my son. and they have made it very difficult for him as a child in this community. And I feel they are nothing more than an outmoded, culturally demeaning symbols of a colonial expressions, of a colonial oppression. And if residents of this community want to honor Indian people, they can choose to do so in many positive ways. For example, treat American Indian individuals, cultures, and religions with respect by demanding that the discriminatory practices of this university and the community at large stop. The community here has a powerful impact on our university. Programs can be developed which accurately reflect Illinois Indian history and cultures and acknowledge contributions of Indian people to this country, past, present, in war, and in peace. Teach about the sovereign rights of Indian nations, what that means. Listen to Indian perspectives on issues where there is cultural dissonance, and help Indian nations protect and preserve the air, the earth, and waters of this country. Another great way to honor American Indians would be maybe to name a school, not a sports team, after a specific Indian person, not a fictional character, under the supervision of the Indian peoples who live in that area. These are just a few examples of things that I think that if this university and if this community would like to honor Native peoples, there are many, many things that we can do. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Cyd. Our third speaker today is Ken Washington.
Everybody hear me? So, people that know me might know when I saw him talking about blondes. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm more geared on the question and answer period because I just feel comfortable that way. So I'm not going to speak as much, but I would like to tell you a little about my life and both my past, my present, and my future. So it has to do with being an Arizona student, African American, Native American. Some people in this room, to them, I'm not a Native American. I don't like them. I don't talk like them. I don't talk to other people like they would talk to other people. But in my heart, I'm Native American. My grandfather, I wish I had a picture of Sam. We used to cut jokes when I was little. He looked like Colonel Sanders because he had really long white hair and but that's a different story. My grandma was very good. My mother was the most beautiful woman in the world. I cherish her, I talk to her every day, sit on her, and I love her, and I respect her. Because she's my family. I can't live without her, or I can't live without thought of her. And I feel the same way with my grandfather. I didn't get a chance to know him, but I will always honor him by recognizing myself as a Native American. I know, I just like everyone to know, I am not registered as a Native American. I can't identify my tribe at this time, but I'm working on that. I feel it's important to me. I'd tell you guys a little story about when I was a little kid. Actually, it's like first day kindergarten. I was not seen as a Native American. I was seen as a little black boy. It's an all-white school. It was lunchtime. It's time to go out and play. I saw some guys that I think they were play, but we weren't in school. We just kind of whether we were in school with 20 other white children, and decided to play, and I'm like, can I play with you guys? And they're like, no. And I said, why? And like, because you just can't. And I guess they were trying to hold not to say, because you're a black boy, like, do something else. And I just took it in stride. I was like, okay. A couple months go by, you know, I'm playing with myself, I'm playing with the girls. I really got to like girls early because that's why it's like that. But after a couple months went by, they let me play with them. But the only thing we were playing on Cowboys and Indians. And I was the Indian. Or the bank robber, and they were cops, and what have you. And it's kind of funny how I died right before the bar to go back inside. Or I got caught and went to jail. And I've been growing up with that kind of stuff for all my life. So for Native Americans out there that may feel that I don't sympathize with them, understand that I do, but maybe it's in a different way because of the way I was brought up. I come from Decatur, Illinois. It's pretty much a 60-40 white-black area, which is about 45 minutes southwest from there. It's a great town, I think. It's got its problems, but you know, we're working on it. I grew up like that, you know. I had a lot of white friends, and something that happened to me when I was growing up, because I got that kind of stuff, I started to talk differently. You know, or that's what they said. I talked differently. I walked differently. I acted differently. Because if I acted nice, I wasn't black. If I talked the way I'm talking to you now, I wasn't black. And I found it really offensive because all black people don't sound like, all black people don't talk like, we don't taste the same, we don't smell the same, you know, and just little things like that. We are not all the same, but I'm a human being, I'm a man, and I should be respected as a man. When I was 17 years old, I had a debate on what was going to happen with my life. Was I going to join the Army, which I did, or go straight to college? I've been accepted to 4 of the top 20 schools in the country, actually 2 in the top 10. And it was an issue of money, which made me choose the Army. And I had a great time. And I even better time when I got to my friendly duty station in Fairbanks, Alaska, where I met, enjoyed, spent a lot of time with events. Because I was in the Army, I didn't have like a lot of social time to go on, but I went to social events with the Alaskan Games. I had a great time. I learned a lot about myself. When I was 18 and I was in Oklahoma, I got to see the culture. I didn't interact because I was in the Army. When I was 21 in Alaska, that's when I realized that I can't hide behind just being black anymore, because it's like, I grew up that way, but now I'm around Indians every day. And when I first got there, they were like, hey, let's stay away from these guys, there's nothing else for us, and stuff like that. And I found that really offensive because I get the same thing. He was thinking that black guy, he's gonna rob you, he's gonna go smoke some crack, you know, he's gonna go do some stuff like that. Now, I don't drink, I don't smoke crack, so I don't know what I am right now. But on that note, it's just that I got to see what it was really about. I got to see another culture. I was exposed to it, and I didn't see Tonto, because Tonto was a good Indian. And I was brought up as seeing the Indians that were in John Wayne's The Searchers, the Comanche. You gotta go get those Comanche. They took your girl and stuff like that. You gotta go get them. And I was like, it's just like saying, let's go get, the black gangbangers, the white cops, the black gangbangers, because they're all white, stuff like that. I was like, there's more to this than just being, there's something wrong here. There's something wrong. I got to see what's going on, and I started to see the light. I started to, let everybody know, don't make fun of them, because I am so American. It's like, so why did you close it? No, because I don't know, it wasn't a concern at the time, because I had too much trouble worrying about being black. But now I'm here, in the present. It wasn't mentioned in the bio because I didn't turn in on time. But I was also a Eurosmall football player. can understand my dilemma of playing for a team that at halftime there's someone with no shoes on, with regalia on his face, and that dress was anyway, out there dancing doing the flesh. I remember when I was little, he used to do a little bit more than toe touch. He used to do like cartwheels and stuff, and they changed that up because it wasn't on like that. It was going bad. I would go into our locker room and there's a Chiefs head on my seat. And I'm like, I have to go sit on his head. You go into a store, there's cheap toilet paper, there's cheap golf balls. There's an old little joke about a pool. It's like, the white balls, hitting all these color balls and the black ball is the last ball. And once the white ball hits the black ball into the last hole, the game's over. That person wins. The white ball wins. And then the golf ball, you're smacking his head. You're sitting on him, or you're, but you're wiping your butt with his likeness. That's really totally offensive. Everybody saw everything? Okay. It's just a joke. It's just a joke. I don't mean to speak for anyone here, because I'm speaking for myself, so don't take any offense if I say I'm speaking or I say something. And I started being a little bit more active last year, and I guess that was a little bit fair, because it's like when I'm playing football, these people are really nice to me. I'm living out my dream. My dream is to play football in the school here, get a law degree, make a lot of money, raise a big family, and live happily ever after. That's the American dream. I'm an American, first and foremost. I'm a man, I'm a human being, first and foremost. Race shouldn't be a fact. It should be, will be everything that's the right people, everything that we talk about. And we still have to cheat, it's like that. Mr. Lionel, we refer to Mr. Lionel. Well, Mr. Lionel has to go. I let people know how I felt. I started going to events. There are rumors out there that a little attention got back to people. And this is one of the reasons why I get phone calls. I get notes in my door. My apartment was broken into. It doesn't scare me. Just don't call me when I'm watching The Simpsons, because it's my favorite show. I made you cry. It's just that the chief does not represent me. Just like I don't represent every Native American. Just like I don't represent all African Americans. I don't want to represent everyone because I can't make everybody happy. But what I do know in my heart is I'm an African man, I'm a Native American, I'm a man, I'm a human being. No one has the right to tell me who I can and cannot be, and what represents me. Honor and great respect and admiration which people have for a person or a country and an application. It does not honor me. Who does it honor? I ask all the coaching people, what do you mean by honor? Oh, I feel good. You feel good. What about me? It's supposed to be an Indian, you're supposed to be honoring the Indian and the Illini people in the Illini country. But, and they go, oh, they're all dead. So what can they say? What can they say? You have no right to speak for them. Respect. A feeling that one admires someone or something by much, I wrote this down. But it's the same thing. It's the same thing. And it does not, I don't respect the chief. And the people that say that they're giving respect, saying that, chief is an honor symbol that is giving respect to your people or of people. Because I say of people, as in like all Indians. Because that doesn't represent the Illini people, just like it doesn't represent someone or any other, maybe, Cleveland, it's a big joke. Now, the thing that gets me is the tradition, and I'll pretty much leave it right here. The passing down of beliefs, practices, and customs from past to present, customary way of thinking on behalf or behaving that has been passed down in this way and continuously followed for a long time. I did not come to this school to play football. I came to school to get an education, first and foremost. I wanted to be a lawyer. I don't want to play on Sundays. I know Dick Buckus. Dick Buckus is 30 right now. He's sitting at home with ice on his knees because he's been playing football forever. I came here from the traditions of the students. Over 35,000 students at this school. World-class facilities. This is one of this has, I think, believe many of these programs in the top 10, which makes this school one of the top 20 in the country. This is a state school, top 20 in the country. Computing. The NCSA is located here. Computers that you guys use at home, use that software, the internet is developed here. Research. This is one of the greatest research departments in the world, where actually this is where the school gets most of their money from. So the debate about how we get all our money from alumni and if we are really cheap, we won't have any money, it's a total joke. It's like the biggest parts out there. I believe there was something in the paper in class. I know because I said when we talk long, but like I said, I talk soft, but I talk a lot. University of Illinois Library is the third biggest in the country. There's over 15.9. I don't even get 15.9. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. 900,000. Yeah. There's 15. Okay, there's almost 16 million books here. And over 40 department libraries. You understand how much knowledge that is? That's why I came to this school. I didn't come to this school. Like when we talk about Joe, I like that man showed he showed how much he cared for me. I didn't come to this school to go to union parties and hang out with my friends and to do something like that. I came to get my education and to mold myself. I want to be the best human being I can be. I want to be the best African American, Native American that I can be. I want to be the best student. I want to be the best friend. I want to be the best speaker, but I know I got work to do on that. And I want to be one of the greatest, I guess, movers and shakers in this movement, because I believe that Mr. Lyman needs to go, because he doesn't represent anybody except, I don't know, disgrace. And I say disgrace because the people that use it are disgracing other people. They're disgracing themselves because they have the mental knowledge of what they're doing. Because if they did, they wouldn't do it. This is great advice. I think that's right. I don't know. Obviously, she doesn't care about me, so why should I care about that? But I'm bigger than that. I do understand that she's probably in a position where she'll lose her job. Lose her job for discriminating everyone in this world. Because it's not an American thing. It's a human being. I had blackface, or somebody had blackface on, I would hope that everyone in this room support me to get that on. That's my thank you guys for listening to me talk.
Great.
Thank you, Ken. The next speaker is Debbie Reese.
Hi, my name is Debbie Reese. I'm Pueblo Indian, a small pueblo called Man Bay, which is north of Santa Fe, New Mexico. My Tewa name is Jose Oqui, which means waters between the mountains. I'm a doctoral student in the College of Education. I was raised traditionally on our reservation in New Mexico, and that means that my elders guided me as I took part in our traditional activities, our ceremonies. I did that all during my growing up years. And after high school graduation, I moved away from the public because I wanted to be a teacher. I got my degree in teaching. I began teaching in public schools. The majority of my teaching was in boarding schools, and they were in Anadarko, Oklahoma, and in Champaign, New Mexico. My husband and I met while teaching at the school in Santa Fe. We married, we had one child, a beautiful daughter whose name is Elizabeth. Her Taylor name is Young Poet, which means little town. Before moving to Illinois, we lived in our old adobe home as a brother, which was my grandmother's home. From birth, Elizabeth has taken part in traditional spiritual activities the same way that I did, and she, like I, strongly identifies with her Pueblo heritage. When she was 3, we moved to Illinois to begin working on our doctorates. As we began our life here, it was clear that we were one of the few Native American families in town. In preschool, we saw children playing Indian on the school playground. They chased each other about making a war whoop sound. Another time, she said to her classmates, this was during the summer that the Disney shows, Pocahontas was released. She said to her classmates when they were playing outside dramatic play, I get to be Pocahontas because I am Native American. And the children said to her, but you're not. You're not. Native Americans aren't real. And besides, your hair's not black and your skin's not dark. You can't be a Native American. She didn't fit their understanding, their conceptual understanding of what a Native American should look like. They thought that she should be wearing buckskin fringe and feathers. Well, as I started to see these things, I wondered, where are these kids getting all this information? I looked around, and of course, the University of Illinois athletic teams are known as the Fighting Illini. Every year, a student is chosen to be chief Illini. Native American students at the university, as well as numerous Native American organizations across the country, have protested his presence. Dressed in a feathered headdress and fringed buckskin, the chief dances barefoot at halftime of football and basketball games. The Twin Cities of Champaign Urbana embrace this image and incorporate it into their businesses. His image is everywhere, from clothing, book bags, posters, vans, storefronts, and local businesses. I looked in the room of 58 different businesses, including Royal Illini, in their name. Everything from the Illini Battery Corporation to the Illini Wallpaper Incorporated. Well, in addition to the UIUC chief, there are stereotypes of Native Americans in books, movies, and on television. I just started to notice where it was all around. It was just it's very clear. In mass market children's books like Clifford the Big Red Dog, to those that we call literary children's books like James Marshall's books, George and Martha. The stereotypes that appear in children's television programs like Muppet Babies, where one of the characters is writing on their episode about the transcontinental railroad they're going across the country, and the little animal guy, but his name is he sits on a horse and he's like, wow, that's the way the Native Americans said hello. Well, Elizabeth sees that sort of thing all the time. Well, she likes those programs. She watches those things. She's not unlike other children. It was, so anyway, but we started to notice those things all around us, not just in the chief, but also in the many ways that it appears. And I feel like we have a very heightened sense of awareness of those stereotypes, partly because we're far away from home. Those stereotypes were there when I was growing up among my people in New Mexico. It didn't matter because I could look right next to me and see my cousins, my friends, all who knew that Native American people were real, that we wore jeans and tennis shoes, that we wore bikes, and we did everything that they did. There were some differences, certainly, but they knew that we existed. They knew we were alive. They knew we were real people. Here, nobody really knows that because they think we're supposed to be something else. In the first 2 years here, Elizabeth had a very hard time, and because we're talking about community, I am trying to focus my remarks on our experiences in the community. She had a lot of trouble in and out of preschool. Those kinds of things, we've seen kids playing in caused her a lot of discomfort. Her teacher told us that Elizabeth was not ready for kindergarten. She was having tantrums in school. We went for a parent conference and started talking to us. I said, what do you mean tantrums? And why haven't you told me about them before? Why am I hearing about them now? So she started telling me about these things, and in my mind, I was beginning to understand some of the stories that Elizabeth had told me about children on the playground telling me, you're not Indian, you can't be Pocahontas, were coinciding with the same days, the same time period in which her teacher said she was having tantrums. Her teacher had no idea this was going on the playground. Now, I don't want to criticize teachers because I'm a teacher. We can't be everywhere, we can't see everything, we don't know what all children are doing at all times. On the other hand, there was not enough of an awareness on her part to understand what the images and stereotypes were doing to Elizabeth's identity. When I started here, I wanted to study literacy in the home. That was one of my passions, but it became very clear watching Elizabeth go through the things she was going through, and through my own interactions with adults in the community who said, tell me about what you think about the chief, tell me this, tell me that, and what shall I do at Thanksgiving? I'm a student in the College of Education, and so I work with pre-service teachers. They're going out into their classrooms, and they want to do a good job teaching about Native Americans. And they're cooperating teachers, unfortunately, because the university sanctions the chief. Somehow, it provides an emotional barrier for them to be able to say, okay, you can teach it authentically, you can teach it accurately. It's a barrier to our own students at the university who want to vouch for me and do a better job of teaching students. So when all of this came together, I realized that what I needed to do was not study literacy in the home, but study stereotypes in children's literature and how children are affected by stereotypes in not just Native children, but other children as well. There's three different kinds of stereotypes in children's literature. The first one is one we call the aggressive savage, and this is the one he's in the Western frontier, comes out of the rocks. He's always attacking those innocent pioneers. He's vicious. He wields his tomahawk, his bow and arrow. He kidnaps children, scalps their parents. He's always riding a horse with his native. That's a scary guy. The second one is the romantic, the noble one. And this is the one I think the chief thinks that they are, the university thinks they have in the chief. He's an admirable image. He exists in harmony with nature. He can interface with every birds, animals, frogs, and snakes. He hunts and knows every part of the animal. Nothing goes to waste. He has mystical powers. He can see things that no one else can see. That's not an accurate image of Native American people either. The third one is the generic one. This one is perhaps the most famous because he's kind of everywhere. Nobody really knows this one. He's in a lot of children's books for no understandable reason. You'll have a character in Indian clothing. It has nothing to do with the story. It's just someone for some reason thought it was okay to put a headdress on one of the characters in the books. As I began to write and share this information with other people in the community, I began to receive invitations from local teachers who wanted me to come and visit their schools, talk to their children. And these visits provided me with excellent opportunity to gauge just what the children's understandings were for the children in this community. On one occasion, I went to a classroom and a child approached me and said, how did you get here? This is a kindergarten classroom. How did you get here? And he kind of cocked his head. And of course, in my mind, I'm thinking, all right, quick, wait, what's he want to know? And then he said, do you have a car? And I said, yes, it's a red one. He said, well, Indians don't have cars, they have horses. My many visits have given me many stories like that. And each and every single time, I think, before I go there, I know I'm going to hear that, but each and every time I think, I can't believe that I hear it. But it is in fact there. And I hear this kind of thing not just from children in the community, but from undergraduates also. The one particular point I was interviewing a young man who was from the suburbs of Chicago, bright young man, very articulate, very intelligent. And he was an anti-chief activist 4 years ago, and he was handing out literature about the chief out on the quad. He said he handed a brochure to some young man, and the young man said, anti-chief, and I don't care, and I'm Native American. Well, the young man I was interviewing said, he couldn't believe it. This guy that said he was a Native American, and these are his words, he was just a guy. And he was wearing a baseball cap, and his skin wasn't even red. Now, this is an undergraduate in political science. Very intelligent, very bright young man. And I think that story in particular illustrates the power of those visual images that children get when they're very young, and they get reinforced throughout their years of growing up. So I guess as a member of the community, I want to point out that many non-Native children have inaccurate concepts about Native Americans that are based on and are reinforced by stereotypes like the chief. Secondly, a Native American child, and I don't think my daughter, unfortunately, sadly, is the only child that has these kinds of experiences. Cyd has reported the same thing with her child. There's a massive amount of anecdotal information like this, story after story after story. Third, teachers want to provide children with accurate information about other cultures, and they want to use children's books to do that. They're trying to learn how to do it better. Librarians are also part of that movement. I think these two groups of people are really key in what we're trying to do. Teachers, librarians, they touch children. This is the future that they're working in. I want to close with something that I think is really important. Children trust us, because we're the grown-ups in their lives. We're their leaders. They turn to us for guidance. They want us to give them accurate information. Now, my experience tells me that there's a lot of people in this community who want to give kids accurate information. I just know that from talking to people that I come in contact with. And they're working hard to combat the stereotypes that are present, not just in kids' books, but here at the University of Illinois. And I commend our teachers, our local teachers, for their efforts to counter those stereotypes, especially when they have to do it here, when they may put their own jobs at risk. They become vocally opposed to the chief. They have parents parents of students in their classrooms who object to that kind of activism. Well, I help them as much as I can. Many times my decision to help people gain an accurate understanding of what Native culture is really like has meant that I put aside my program, my study. I was supposed to take qualifying exams in March, and I delayed that for a few months, just so that I can keep working on this, because I think it's really important. I also will say here that I'm a little bit hesitant to say that out loud and in public, because I'm not sure that many of you have seen the Orange and Blue Observer. It's a student paper on campus, and on the back page of there, they have taken a picture of Bill, who was his father, placed it on the back there, and alongside there is a caption that says, "Help me, I'm oppressed." Because Bill said, "I would have a better grade point average if I didn't have to spend so much of my time working on the sheet." Now, if that isn't an example of how harmful this community is to Native American people and how hard we have to work just to be here, it's just a perfect example of that. Again, I want to close by saying children trust us. It's our job to help them. And I think we can do that. We can move together to do that in this community. I think people really want to do that. We just need to impact the very people that are our obstacle. It's the Board of Trustees. They're just not doing that. And I think as many community people as can address them, call them up, write to them, ask to be on the agenda, talk to them. They're the ones we have to influence. It's the Board of Trustees. The faculty is behind this movement. The student groups are behind it. But that Board of Trustees is our number one obstacle, and we have to get to them. So I ask that you try to do that.
Thank you very much. And the final speaker is the Durango.
It scares me when she says the final speaker. Actually, coming last like this sometimes, I'm sitting here thinking that everybody says what I want to say, and I heard Billy Mills this morning, and I said to a couple of people, I don't have anything to say compared to what he says. And I would say, I'll just come to this meeting and say, go find out what he said, and that's what I would say in my own humble way. I usually tell people that I'm a barefoot boy from the country. I came from Oklahoma. My mother was Muscogee Creek. My stepfather was Creek. My father's Mexican-American, but I never really knew him. And so I don't have any Mexican culture. By virtue of being a Mexican, he's certainly a lot Indian. So I figured I'm at least 3/4 Indian, Native American. I came to Champaign, Urbana in 1994 because the job that I had at the state of Illinois allowed me to come here doing the same thing I did at Cook County. So it was a wonderful opportunity. As it turned out, my daughter, Amy, came to the university the year before, and she was wanting to be an English teacher, a high school English teacher. She looked like a high school student, still does actually, at age 22. But one of the first things that happened, and I didn't know anything about Mr. Illini. We came down here, just as regular people, and we found out all of this kind of stuff. But when she first came down here, we lived in Oak Park, Poor Park, of course, but we were a standardized suburban kind of family. Amy had a lot of international kind of friends. A lot of them were some rich people in Oak Park, and she hung out with some of those kids. She was a regular suburban kind of child, and I think some of her boyfriends like to think of her as being exotic, because she was very Mexican. And she came down here, and one of the first things she did even though didn't have that money, because I didn't have that much, she went out and bought a season pass to the football games. And she wanted to be like everybody else. And she found out about Mr. Elimination. It was devastating. She would spend, every time there was a home game, where she'd have to try to get rid of the ticket. One of the other things that happened to her when she was down here was that in one of these huge survey courses that most people have all gone to, there was an elderly professor and somebody, probably went racist. He, at one point, he was talking about Native Americans. Why do they want to be called Native Americans? You know, I'm a Native American too. I'm blah, blah, blah. And she called me, and she was devastated. She said, I want to drop out of the class, I want to go there. Nobody else seemed to mind. I was the only one. I wanted to slide down in my seat. And I thought, I need to get down here. Oh, no, Dad, don't come down, don't come down. So I didn't. And that kind of reminded me of what Charlene says when she talks about her children, what Billy Gill said when he talked about her children. You know, when things affect our children, it's one Mother's Day, there was an article in the paper about when you have children, that's like taking a part of your heart and putting it out into the world. And it's going to be hurt. Your heart's going to be broken. You're going to get concerned. That's how I kind of felt. But she persevered. She became active. And unlike Billy Mills, she was able to join a sorority. But she always wanted to be there. It's not really our personal values in the family, but she, that's fine. That's what she wanted to do. She became active. She started having talks about against the chief in her sorority. And I came in and gave a presentation. And her boyfriend, who's a fine young man, he invited me to his fraternity, and I spoke to them there. I didn't really get any response. It's probably the same way of talking to a younger version of the DOT. But I actually met either the chief or the substitute chief. I'm not sure which one he was. A nice young guy. We had a chat. The way I operate is I'm not going to, berate him or anything like that. I told him, I'm a human being. I appear to be an Indian, and I am an Indian, Native American, and it bothers me. I don't like it. And he gave me the same old line that this Graven horse gives with her bland, oh God, what a bland face, you know she's going to step on it. But her bland, clueless attitude of, you shouldn't feel that way. And it's kind of gratifying because I was able to quote my lovely wife right here when I was invited to be part of that, in whose honor, saying, what part of ouch do you not understand? And I like that. That's my attitude, and I see it happen. One of the other things, what happened when we moved down here was, we moved, luckily enough, moved across the street from one of the nicest grade schools around. We don't look into somebody's front window, we look out across the field. And I kind of got the house because the person who had it before, like planted trees everywhere. She did things like planting a blue spruce under a crabapple tree. But it looked undeveloped. As close as I can get back to the old woods that I came out of when I was a therapist working. And one day he came home. Oh, this school, like Yankee Ridge, is like noted for its international now. All because it's an international school. Everybody knows all these things. And he came home and one day he kind of looked nervous at dinner and he said, I got something to tell you guys. Of course, our antenna went up. Gene's got great antenna. And he said, well, I didn't want to, it happened a couple of days ago, and I didn't want to tell you because I knew you'd go right up to the school, and, I was worried about it. And he said, the teacher, because it was kind of a slow day for learning, and had gotten out this old book and was doing some responsive reading, and that it was about the Old West, pioneers and cowboys and Indians and all that kind of stuff. And whenever she read something like the women, all of the girls were supposed to go, ee, and every time she said cowboys, it was yippee-ki-yay. And every time it was Indians, it was woo. And he said he felt so bad. And, he was troubled. He was a little kid. Little kids shouldn't have to be put into those kind of positions. And he's right. We went right up to that school the next day. But we talked to a person that Gene knows, a who was kind of like acting on PTA, so we had to find out in advance who was this teacher who would do something so insensitive. And it turned out that people really didn't think that she was like that. So when we went up there, you know, she said, hi, how you doing? You know, so. And then we said, remember when we read that story the other day? She got this look of, oh my God. And I kind of believe that she didn't know. I mean, it was absolute ignorance on her part. It seemed like it shouldn't have been allowed. But she profusely apologized, said it's not how she was. She's going to throw that book away, et cetera, and invited us up to, you know, speak with the kids and all that. And this is the kind of thing that happens. And my son, my older son, who's in the back of the room, when he was at the Urbana Middle School, they had a showing of this book that she, in whose honor. And his teacher said he was very admirable in being able to speak about the issues. But my son was put in a position of trying to convince his classmates the error of the ways of the university and their mascot. And I felt very bad about that. He did an excellent job. His teacher thought it was great. But it bothers me that my children have to go through this, have to be introduced to abject ignorance, have to start developing either a thick skin or a cynical attitude about the world in general. And when I heard Billy Mills talk this morning, I realized this is a violation. This is a violation of our children's right to be children, to be human beings, to view everybody. And it's not just Native American children. It's all children. And all children are our future. And our future is being violated. The well of their hopes and their dreams are being poisoned by something that people think does not matter. People tell me, get a life, you know, look at anything to do, you know. I remember once, I belonged to the ministry once, and we were, you know, like 60 man in the 90s, even though it was the 80s. One of the ministers, we went to his home. I walked into this minister's home, and his daughter, who was a white man, his daughter was about 9 years old. I remember walking into the kitchen. I remember the kitchen because inexplicably there was a worn spot in the tile, so I it's a nice house, but it's got a big hole in the floor. But his daughter looked at me and broke into this big grin, started dancing around like Chief Elimination would go woo woo woo. You know, this happened a little while ago, but when I think of this, I'm 52 years old. I have a lot of experience. I'm an administrator with the Illinois Department of Children and Family Services. I have a master's degree in art education. My wife loves me, which is the biggest qualification that I have. I can be reduced, violated, in a minute. Remember we talked about that esteem, that little thing, that big thing in your heart, that memory, that long-term stuff. And I'm an adult, and I should be able to deal with it. But I felt a deep sadness, not just because I was reduced into the eyes of a little kid to something like Mr. Elimination, but the sadness and the loss that little girl suffered. And I'd like to be able to talk about, trying to help other people be responsible. Somewhere along the line, the village that's trying to raise that little girl, because of the atmosphere, that things like the Chief and how the total bland, infuriating cluelessness of people who tell me that I can't feel the way I feel, and that the hurt and violation of my children and the future of the world is something that I didn't consider. That I should, quote unquote, get over it. There are some things that it's very hard to do. And when we put our hearts out into the community as parents, as mentors of children, and we find people who bit by bit, increment by increment, begin to poison the well, begin to ring bells of cynicism in our children that cannot be unrung. And we talk about Cyd and Debbie, and their children are out there having to suffer, maybe, and not knowing what's happening to their children. And yet we see it every day, in every area. Cynicism, a lack of respect, a lack of taking responsibility. It's happening everywhere. It's happening everywhere. I was talking to someone earlier today about, I work in the Department of Children and Family Services. Parents do horrible things to children. Horrible, horrible things. Again and again. How can you do that? You don't have the conscience to do that. How can you justify the kind of abuse that some children suffer? It's a lot of ignorance. It's because how they were damaged, bit by bit. Now, I'm not saying that the fact that Mr. Liner like dancing around at halftime is going to be something that's going to destroy the nation. But it's a symbol. And the irony that it exists in the flagship university. My wife teaches at early childhood education for different children. She says it every year. Some of the little kids, some of the ones that Debbie talked about, like, there aren't any Indians. We met a Navajo man in the community once. He said a little kid came up to him in the supermarket and said, "Look, Daddy, look, Daddy." He said, "Where have you been?" Meaning that they thought Indians were here. So, every year, he says, some kid will come in with this image of Native Americans that's taught to them, like this guy dancing around him. And the irony, the abject irony of that whole thing is, you got a kid who's bright, he's in a special gifted program coming into the educational world of this university at the front end, very, very front end. And I guess I would call it too close, but being influenced by basically the hind end of this university. And it's ironic that that symbol has poisoned the well of that pure child who wants to learn and is able to learn. And she has to undo it, or try to undo it, in order for this child to pursue on their own. And I think that's a terrible, terrible irony that this university is perpetrating on those people with their blandness and their active passivity, I think, to tell me and tell all people, tell their children that it's okay. But it's not. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Brenda. Okay, now we can open the session up to questions and answers. If you have a question, come up to the microphone and just address it directly to anyone who wants to.
First of all, I want to congratulate the organizers of this conference. It's so timely, and I think it says a lot about the solidarity and the university community that are part of this effort. And it's that kind of solidarity that's going to lead us on to victory. I want to apologize for leaving and coming back, but I'm trying to cover several workshops at the same time, because I always learn also. My name is Wabun Nini, Indishani Cause. That's my real name. I'm Man of Dawn. I'm Anishinaabe, Ojibwe. And of course, I'm better known by my missionary colonial name as Vernon Belfort. I also want to congratulate Jay Rosenstein and all of you that were part of that. Karen, your statements were powerful. I would like to ask my brother here in Durango, as your wife said, what part of ouch don't they understand? And I thought that was so appropriate. And it's a little sound bites that's going to be indelible in your minds. So I want to congratulate everyone that was part of that effort.
I have a great scriptwriter.
Oh, you scriptwriter right here? Congratulations. Great. Editor also. Bionic woman. So I just wanted to say that and congratulate you all on the very important work that you're doing. And I just heard in another session that someone yesterday at a press conference gave them 2 years to change. You know, hopefully we would like to have them change tomorrow, but you know, these folks take time, you know, the bureaucracy and everything, and they're having to spend some money on new uniforms, so that's probably going to bog them down, the profit mode that Billy Mills said. However, we're convinced that as Black Sambo and Rastus are a thing of the past, so are Chief Wahoo, and I use the word Wahoo, of course, and Redskins, of course, are the same as any kind of racial slur against Negroes, people that would use the N-word. You know, one of the examples we're making, in fact is, we're in trial right now in Cleveland Municipal Court. Juanita Helfrey, who's in the other workshop next door, Juan Rain, a longtime Cleveland activist, and myself, along with several dozens of other people. As you all know, we burnt effigy of the racist Wahoo. We had him with a big Wahoo shirt on, a Redskins hat, because we wanted to hit them too. And we had that sucker stuffed. He looked to be like 260 pounds, and we dragged him through the streets of Cleveland and around the ballpark during the World Series. I tell you, a lot of people were able to put themselves there and really understand the message we were making. Now, we had been demonstrating in Cleveland for 10, 15, 20, 25 years, and different people have been demonstrating against it. So this is something that's new. But it got to the point after 3 or 4 years that the media was ignoring it. The fans would come by and spit on us and ridicule and insult. So we finally said, well, we've got to create a media then. And so we decided 2 things. One, we were going to get a logging chain and chain ourselves to the gate before the game started, where they'd have to come in and cut the chain, arrest us, or whatever they're going to do. The second backup was to burn the effigy. So we got over there and we started our demonstration. We hung that sucker in a tree, and at a certain time when all the media got there, and if they say, yeah, you guys are opportunists, you take advantage of me, of course, we have to. So we torched it. Now, as you know, the Supreme Court has determined that burning American flags is a legitimate First Amendment expression. Now, we have no reason to burn an American flag, because it's not our flag. Our flag is the Eagle staff. And I don't fault those people who have a sense of patriotism toward the American flag or toward the American government, but oftentimes I think that patriotism is wrongly placed. So certainly you should be able to burn an effigy of racism. The cops went for a search. 5 of them jumped on me. I'm charged with reckless endangerment and destroying property. I guess the leaves on the tree were someone singed. And they made a far reach to the fact that they thought were propane tanks that people put in balloons. Now, as you all know, at Lakehurst, New Jersey, the Graf Zeppelin dirigible that blew up was filled either with nitrogen or hydrogen. And you think the Germans would have had more common sense, you know, to realize that that's very dangerous. So I think that the Cleveland police are making that reach to those gas tanks in the back, which are filled with helium, which I understand, according to science, scientific people in the science, that it's inert. It doesn't burn, it doesn't explode. That's why they use it in balloons. We're also charged with resisting arrest. And Juanita Helfrey, who's the other section, and Juan Rain are charged with criminal trespass on free speech zone that had been established by the federal referee. We were denied our constitutional rights. We're defending the criminal case, which starts Monday morning again. We picked the jury yesterday. The prosecution put forth 1 witness. We tore them apart. We don't think they have a very good case. We think we have a strong case. Unfortunately, we got to put all this energy and time into defending it. So in that sense, we kind of lose when we get into the courts, but it's a great forum. Court TV is covering it. We were able to pull that off. So a lot of people throughout the country will be able to see it. In the meantime, anybody got friends in the Cleveland or Ohio area, or if you're from Chicago and you can get over there, we're having a demonstration Monday morning, and then we're going to have one over the lunch hour for our people that work. We can't get there otherwise. It's in Municipal Court, 15th floor, in the Justice Center down in Cleveland. I hated to take this time to make a speech here, but I want to thank you all for the great work you're doing, and I want to shake hands with this young man specifically. How you doing, Wayne? Good to see you, man. Thank you very much. Be with us.
My name is Tom Arnold. The reason I don't have long hair is because the mascot issue makes all Indians stereotype. They have long hair, they're all young, right? So I should have my hair cut short. I don't know if I can. Anyway, I'm not an Indian. Which brings me to a point of my culture. I'm very proud of it. I can trace it back Indian way to the very beginning of time, or I can use white man way. I can trace it back to the setting up of the reservation, concentration camps. I'm from Rosewood, South Dakota. You're going to look at that map and set it up and find the army name right in the center. We have very large families who control very much land. We weren't really proud of land, we were proud of family. But I mean, I have a lot of relatives. All my relatives will just look just like you people. Why aren't you guys allowed to come in and hurt? Because of the mascot issue. It's stereotyped that we're only supposed to look like that. We live under a genocide law where I will a white person. I kill my heritage. Established. We're not allowed to love freely. We're not allowed to have a business space. We're not except the mascot. Where you're supposed to only look at me if I have long hair, wearing my moccasins, hot eagle feathers. Yeah, I might be an Indian. So when we think of this issue, the mascot issue, not just being one of something, it's only for everyone to be. Because you have that certain issue. They're the ones that are stopping you like Cincinnati leaders and trying to look at it. Keep that in mind. Thank you.
I'd like to say welcome to everyone here for sharing. My name is Eric Martin, and my family nationality. I'm here for a couple reasons. I'm here for my children. And I really cannot understood the mascot issue what we until today and hearing all the speakers. I've kind of been on the outskirts of what's been going on. I have some concerns about their education when they get older, the type of education I can give them as far as choosing what type of school, homeschooling, or what have you. I've seen good articles in the news from Indian country. One was called My Choice to Homeschool, and it was by a Native American woman. She was also a teacher who chose to take her children, because of lack of good education of Native people. And here in central Illinois, and I graduated in a class of 11 people, 67 people in the whole high school. And I'm not sure how things would go with my children here in central Illinois. And also, right now I'm starting to work with the Boy Scouts. As a kid, I was in the Boy Scouts and later in the Boy Scouts. I figured it would be good for me to do that and share what I have, what I've learned for the last 5 years. And one of those things is being a merit badge counselor. They have little merit badges you can learn about something for a short amount of time and move on and earn a badge. And one of those badges is Indian boy. And I was able to get a hold of one of the merit badge books so I could use it and
help whoever needed help with earning that badge. And I noticed some very stereotypical things in that. One was to describe who you think was the most warlike tribe and things like that. So I'm asking if anyone in the central Illinois or Illinois region could help me out in the future. And I'm here to get information for the Boy Scouts also. So what I did want to say, thank you guys very much. Appreciate it.
I feel kind of awkward up here. I don't know if everybody can hear me or not. I'll talk in one direction. My name is Thurman Hornbuckle, and I came here in 1988 to complete a residency at the Veterinary Medical School, which I did. I also completed a degree in endocrinology and reproductive physiology, and I taught here at the university for a few years. And the funds ran out on my position. So I set up a little bit of a practice out here in St. Joseph, Illinois, where I do farm call practice. And there's some very good people here in Illinois. I work with large animals for the most part, cattle and horses. And according to my clients, the way I charge, they said they got to be good quality cattle and horses. And I said, I agree with you. But these people are farmers, and they do have some good livestock, and so I provide professional service. Now, I graduated from the University of Pennsylvania, Ivy League. I have a master's degree in environmental science and engineering, and a bachelor's degree in science. But what concerns me here in the community is that I go to these farms, and people know me for my reputation, but they also know that I'm an Indian. And the irony of all this is that they will call me before they'll call the University of Pennsylvania. But when I get out of my truck, and I have one of those reservation type trucks, I don't know if you all know about them or not, the doors are loose, the tires are bald. I say I'm trying to invent a new type of tire, bald eagle. But when I get out of my truck, it's, how are you doing, Tonto? Not Dr. Hornbuckle, graduate of the Ivy League, master's degrees in 2 or 3 fields. And then my lovely assistant back here, stand up, Mary Kate. And I looked at her several times to see. But they say it's Tonto and Pocahontas. And I don't think she looks the least bit like that Oriental depiction of Pocahontas in the movie. I've looked at Indian women with a real scrutinizing eye all my life. And I have yet to find that Pocahontas in that movie. Maybe there's a couple of them, but I missed them. But that's the kind of community we live in. This community in central Illinois, and I work all the way north of Bloomington into Indiana, south to Charleston, and almost to Kankakee. But everywhere I go, I'm not called Dr. Hornbuckle, the veterinary extraordinaire. And no one like that, but my reputation precedes most places I go. And I find that they have this concept and this identity of the chief that they know, or Mr. Illinois, or what I call the clown of Illinois. Because I have no respect for this person, this position, this thing. It is useless in society. But I have respect for Wayne because he's the next generation that's coming. I worked with Mary Kate trying to teach her. She's in engineering here at the University of Illinois. 3rd year engineering student. Works to be in veterinary medicine, has aspirations to be a medical doctor, human. veterinary medical doctor, 2 professional degrees, 3 if he completes engineering. Those are the aspirations of Indian students these days. Nothing about being this clown. We have tradition, we have ceremony, we have ritual. I'm the first enrolled Eastern Band Cherokee Indian to graduate from any medical school. I was one of the first people to even graduate from college. They sent me this little plaque, and my tribal leaders were very honored. They honored me at my tribal ceremony. But the plaque has veterinarian spelled wrong. Now that tells us a lot. I thought when I first got it, I'll send it back to them, have it changed. And I said, hell no, that ain't happening. That reflects where we are in 1986. That reflects where we are. They can't spell the word. And this is already made up into a nice brass and bronze and all kind of plaque. But if you want to see it sometime, I'll bring it in. Thank you.
Well, if there are no more questions, what I'd like to do is have you all participate in the... Oh, sorry.
I was going to try.
Please, go ahead.
My name is Hugh Danforth. I'm an enrolled member of the Oneida Nation in Wisconsin. And on the enrollment, I'm listed as half Oneida. My dad is Oneida from Wisconsin, and my mother is Oneida from Canada. So I'm half maybe Illini or North American or something like that. I want to thank you all for giving us your experiences and your good words. I think that when I started my little mascot venture back in 1992, I wanted to find out just how many major organizations were against the mascot, and one of them eliminated. And it seemed like all the major organizations, I had many, many resolutions to that effect. And so then I flipped it. I said, well, which ones are in favor? And it was very hard to find anyone that was in favor. One was the Seminoles in Florida, but I think the Seminoles in Oklahoma have a different viewpoint. So if all of these resolutions represent the majority of our people in calling for the elimination and of the mascot, they condemn the mascot and they call for their elimination. And so when I think about all the testimony, and I just wanted to touch on one area that doesn't seem to be touched on, and that's one of sportsmanship. If we are raising our children or having people in sports, it's supposed to instill in them a sense of sportsmanship and a sense of fair play. If all these resolutions from all of these major organizations are calling for the elimination of that, why aren't these institutions taking into consideration, if they're having sports, to realize that if they are asking for their elimination, why can't they be in fair play in a sense, a fair play, eliminate. Thank you.
Any more questions?
Really, I just wanted to say that I think you guys are doing all a great job. I don't really have no fancy title or nothing, but I'm a senior in high school in Davenport, Iowa. My name is Tanya Azure. I'm Mascots, Oneida, and Winneshiek. And I have the same thing in Davenport. There's not very many Indians around, you know. It's like they ask me, oh, do they still have TPs and reservations, you know, and all that? I'm like, no, they have houses. And how do they dress? I'm like, well, how am I dressed? How I'm dressed, you know? And when I was a freshman in high school, I had a problem. Me and my cousin went to school together, and they have newspapers weekly, and it was around Thanksgiving time. And there was this thing in there that said, why don't those Indians go back to where they came from, you know? And I was like, what? You know, we started talking to the editor, I was like, and it was like, it's just a joke, you know? And I'm like, well, you wouldn't like it if we put something in the newspaper saying, why don't Europeans go back to where they came from? You know, we don't sit there and do that, you know, and all this. So, finally they don't put no more of that stuff in there around Thanksgiving time. And I just wanted to say that I know, because you guys are trying so hard, that we can stop this racist thing. I want to say that you guys are doing a very good job.
Thank you for letting us know that all Indians are fashionables. One of the things I heard is
You, please go to the microphone.
Okay. This will be very quick. One of the things I've heard in reference to what you were saying about the Indians should go back to where they came from. You have to be a little careful when you say that, because it might be in your backyard.
Okay, well, are there any more questions? Okay, what I'd like to do now is ask for your participation in putting together a resolution that echoes the main points of what we have said here, that we wish to be put forward as a record from the conference, and as I said, it will become a part of President Clinton's dialogue on race, the materials that we're going to get forward. Now, what Wayne is handing out is some draft suggestions of the kinds of things we could say. They're simply suggestions from the organizers of the conference, and we can edit those, change them, add to them, have them all in, or just have some of them in. It's really up to us. And we have our note taker, so she can remind us of pertinent things that we said. Let me ask the panel members here. It seems to me that one of the overwhelming themes that has come out of our presentations today is the emphasis on children, the way in which stereotyping affects children in the community. It's not simply